Okay, hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gerdes. It is Friday, December 6th, 2024. This is the Daily Brief. So, we're coming to you both on YouTube and Spotify. I figured, hey, let's try this. And it looks like Spotify might actually be a good solution where people can listen. Somebody was telling me the other day, or in a comment yesterday or the day before, that they listen to me on their drive to work. And so they try to turn their phone over so they're not tempted to look up at the screen. Spotify might just be the solution for you if you're into podcasts. So, okay, 1660 Russians off the battlefield. What does that mean? So 1660 is high, but not that high. It is, let me see, 1660 is the a tie for 12th place of highest daily Russian casualties. So not in the top 10, but still pretty significant. But the big news here is that they just crossed an important threshold. Now, again, these are averages or estimations of Russian personnel losses. It's not an exact science, but they just crossed the 750,000 threshold. So that's a pretty significant figure in itself. When I look at Andrew Perpetua's list, it looks like it's about 1-to-1 in Russian to Ukrainian losses for the last update, which came out last night, not this morning. Okay, overnight, 53 Shahed drones were launched into Ukraine. A total of 32 were shot down, 16 suppressed by electronic warfare, 2 returned to Belarus. So roughly 50 out of 53 did not reach their target. So we're not seeing any, an apartment complex on fire or that sort of thing. Okay, today is an important date. Now they have a lot of commemorations about, for this unit or these police or that sort of thing. I'm just going to read Zelensky's his congratulations today for the armed forces of Ukraine. Respect, gratitude, honor from the entire Ukrainian people to each of them. To everyone who, with blood, tears, and fire, is writing the new history of independent Ukraine, writing it everywhere, in Kharkiv, Sumy, Zaporizhia, Kherson region, and in such challenging directions as Kharkiv, Pokrovsk, and Kupiansk, on all the hottest front lines where Ukraine fights, where they fight. Our ground forces, air force, naval forces, artillery, intelligence, paratroopers, special operations forces, territorial defense, and unmanned systems forces, all our warriors. Together, they are the force. Together, they are the armed forces of Ukraine. May death evade the brave. May everything for them always be 450. May their valor endure, their glory shine. May we all share in Ukraine's victory. Congratulations, warriors. Glory to the armed forces of Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. Okay, so now what is this 450? I had to look that up because I wasn't familiar with it, but there's we're learning as we go, right? In Ukraine, the war has reshaped language to create new idioms, and 450 is a military term. There is no military no military activity and no danger. When a Ukrainian soldier hears 450, I don't know if it's 4.5.0 or 450 on the radio, they know that everything is calm in their sector. Okay, so that's what he was talking about here with may everything always be 450. Now, Zelenskyy also was addressing the first military prayer breakfast, highlighting that they defend our country and our people with hope for justice and faith in God. We want life for Ukraine, which is why we are doing, and we will continue to do everything to strengthen our army. We want an honest peace for Ukraine, and we will not forget about justice for Ukrainians. Their just right to live in their home in safety and in peace. So that was his address at the first military prayer breakfast in Ukraine. Now let's look at what's been happening, some events. Yesterday, and I didn't mention this yesterday, Ukraine hit a Tor anti-system at night while it was moving. This was not last night, the night before. Russians lost at least 61 Tor SAM systems during the ongoing war. Now, last night, a warehouse in Nizhny Novgorod was completely burnt down. Jay in Kyiv was talking about it. Meanwhile, 1,800 kilometers from Ukraine, Ukrainian drones paid a visit to some warehouses next to an airfield in Nizhny Novgorod. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, you can see the glow of it in the distance. And if you're listening on Spotify, you just have to imagine it. On the night of December 5 to 6, 2024, 3 drones also targeted the headquarters building of the Russian 3rd Motorized Rifle Division. Reports indicated that 2 drones hit the headquarters building directly, causing damage, and the casualties are unknown. Of course, I'm sure the Russian authorities will say that they were all shot down and just debris fell or something along those lines. A 3rd drone landed on a 4-story barracks with the roof without detonation, but the roof's not supposed to look like the roof is supposed to be solid, not have a big hole in it like is in the picture. Okay, early morning raid. Ukraine's drone fleet attacked the area of the Kerch Bridge, likely targeting shipyards. Not the Kerch Bridge itself. If that was the case, you would have seen some different headlines. But here's in the Kyiv Post. I'm just going to read 2 paragraphs here. Ukrainian forces have reportedly targeted Kerch City in occupied Crimea with drones in the early hours of Friday, December 6th, with explosions reported by residents. The blasts were heard near the Zalov shipyard and a fire was seen. But a little bit further down, it gives us some more clarification about just all the drone attacks. The ministry also claimed that 33 drones were intercepted overnight across several regions, including 14 in Voronezh, 11 in Kursk, and 7 in Belgorod, and no injuries or damage were reported in these regions. None anywhere, because everything was always, shot down or whatever. If I look at actual news about the Kerch Bridge, there's really nothing about it other than traffic has been halted, and it's becoming stale news even as we speak now. Okay, so there's a new drone. This is Anton Gerashenko talking about a new drone missile called Peklo. This is Ukrainian for the word hell. It has been introduced in Ukraine today. It was handed over to the Ukrainian Armed Forces. This new development from Ukraine's defense industry can reach speeds of up to 700 kilometers per hour and has a range of over 700 kilometers. The weapon has already demonstrated its effectiveness in combat. Again, and these hits are going to keep coming. Like this is the future for Russia. It's going to be bad. Peklo drone missile, our Ukrainian weapon with confirmed combat effectiveness. Today, the first batch delivered to our armed forces. This is the Defense of Ukraine, the official website. Now the mission, this is important, now the mission is to scale up production and deployment. Yep, that's what they have to do. They have to make their own homegrown, and they have to do it faster. And as they do that, they will see more and more success. Russia is now compensating, this is the Kyiv Post, Russia is now compensating for diminished artillery supplies by using glide bombs. Now, they've been doing this for many months now, Western officials told Sky News. Russia's dominance in artillery fire against Ukraine has decreased to 1.5 from just 5 to 1 just a few months ago. That's really significant that they used to have an artillery advantage of 5 to 1, and now it's just down to 1.5. And thank God for drones, because without drones being able to help the Ukrainians target more precisely, the artillery advantage would have just been overwhelming in some places for the Ukrainians. It was already overwhelming, but it would have been overwhelming. You understand what I'm saying. The artillery advantage at the front has diminished substantially. So what's going on? So the Kyiv Post has an article about this. The Kremlin's sometimes overwhelming firepower advantage on the front line in Ukraine seems to be falling. Russian ground and air forces launching distinctly fewer artillery shells and bombs at Ukrainian defenses. Britain's Sky News, citing Western officials and Russian cannon howitzers and rocket artillery, currently are able to fire only about 1.5 times as many munitions as their Ukrainian opposition. The drop in the quantity of shells fired by Russia, according to the Sky Report, results from limitations in Russia's defense production, difficulties with ammunition rail transportation to the front lines, and strikes by Ukrainian drones on strategic Russian and North Korean ammunition stockpiles inside Russia. Okay, so all those factors make some sense of this. The increased deliveries of artillery rounds through Czechia-led coalition of Ukrainian allies, which has jointly sourced and purchased munitions for Kiev's military, has also helped shift the balance of firepower away from overwhelming Russian dominance and bring it closer to parity. So that was really helpful as well. So good on the Czechs. Since early 2024, Russian forces, possibly because of their shrinking artillery advantage, have increasingly deployed long-range glide bombs against Ukrainian positions. These are powerful but relatively inaccurate weapons. So that's what they had to do. Now, if you could check with either long-range artillery or some kind of rockets that could keep the planes at bay, you wouldn't have this problem if you had the air defense in order to do that. And we have F-16s, but we don't have enough F-16s within Ukraine in order to actually create a deterrence that they need. They just don't have enough. Okay, let's look at the front line. I'm only going to talk about one spot because it's the hottest spot on the front line. It's Kharkiv, 47 attacks. Now, that's not a very high number compared to previous days, but that is going to be the hot spot here until Kharkiv either the Russians give up on Kharkiv or the Russians prevail there. The Kremlin is continuing, this is the ISW, the Kremlin is continuing to suffer significant manpower losses to make tactical advantage in Western Donetsk Oblast at the expense of Russia's ongoing war effort in the medium-term viability of the Russian economy. Okay, so they keep pushing, they keep throwing these people into slaughter, trying to gain ground, but they're not really gaining ground in the way that they should be doing that if they're going to be sustainable. What they're doing, Russia, okay, here's another part from the ISW. Russia forces have suffered an estimated 125,800 casualties during a period of intensified operations from September to November 2024. 125,000 plus in 3 months, in exchange for 2,356 square kilometers of gains. Okay, that means that there's 53 Russian casualties per square kilometer of Ukrainian territory seized. That's a pretty bad deal for the Russians, given the size of the country and what they would have to try to acquire. It's just they won't be able to do it. Now, I'm not saying that Ukraine is without their problems in manpower, but this is going to create some significant havoc for the Russians if they keep using this approach, because it's too dear of a price. Now, reporting on the losses in Ukraine's ongoing operations in Russia's Kursk region, the head of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, General Syrskyi, states that Ukrainian losses are almost half of those suffered by Russian forces. Now, we've heard some strange numbers like 5-1 and that sort of thing. And for a short period of time, that may very well have been true. I think we're looking at the total time that they've been in Kursk is about half the numbers. And that would make sense of this, because this next paragraph says, the general reports that Russia had 7,905 soldiers killed and 12,220 wounded in the Kursk region alone. Additionally, 717 Russians were taken prisoner now in Ukrainian captivity, and most of those prisoner captures were early on in the fight. So now we're looking at about 2-1 in the Kursk overall. And that gels with the kinds of numbers that we would see. Like I've gone over the numbers in multiple ways now, and it seems like you can't really project more than about, maybe there's 1 Ukrainian loss for every 2. It's probable that it's more like 2 for every 3. At the height, it's probably not more than 3 for every 4. But those are realistic kind of assessments, and I think the height of 3 to 4 is a little high, but okay. Those are realistic assessments, and if you're saying that there's 1 Ukrainian loss for every 5, that's hopium. And if you're saying that there's 5 Ukrainian losses for every 1, that's like something that the Russian Ministry of Defense might say. So it's probable that it's 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, something in that kind of neighborhood. Okay, just 12 to 18 days. 12 to 18 days. What are we talking about? This is the average lifespan of a Russian contract soldier on the front lines. From the time that they get there, they've got about 2 to 3 weeks to survive. Minimal training and mounting losses highlight the rising toll, with 152 daily deaths confirmed in October. Now, we're saying 152 daily confirmed in October, but that is deaths, and October was 13,054 casualties. So that's little less than a tenth, but that's only the tenth that's confirmed. It's got to be higher, certainly higher than that. But yeah, 12 to 18 days though. That's how long you're going to last on the front lines. That's just absolutely brutal. Okay, Jay in Kiev, switching gears, talking about any American can go on social media, recite nonsense Russian propaganda, and get monetized and paid. It's a 2020's version of a crack dealer, but victims are mostly in Ukraine, Georgia, Belarus, and all the other items of Putin's acquisition list. And he's talking about a famous YouTuber. His name is Johnny W. Harris, with 6 million followers, released a video titled "Why People Blame America for the War in Ukraine." And he presented his argument, essentially blaming the West for causing Russia's imperialistic rise. Well, there's a bunch of these guys out there, but he's got 6 million followers, and he's going to have some kind of influence on them. They call them influencers for a reason. I apparently picked the wrong side if I was trying to make bank, but that's okay. I can look at myself in the mirror and have a clean conscience. By the way, I talked about this at the very beginning. I'm on Spotify. Thank you for those of you who went out to Spotify. And I put these since Thanksgiving out on Spotify. I'm going to keep doing this so that people can listen on audio. I've had 160 people listen to streams and consume 10 hours worth of, and I have 116 people that signed up as followers. And by the way, it's really helpful to me when it looks like 33 of you have now rated the show. So when you do that, when you put the ratings out there, that helps tell Spotify's algorithm that this is helpful. If you're not on Spotify, don't worry about it. But if you'd like to listen to this on audio, this is another means by which people can hear what's going on in Ukraine. And so thank you. Okay, let's turn our attention to drones again. Czechs have raised 8.5 million for Ukraine for military drones. Czech volunteer group raises millions for Ukraine's defense. Delivering drones and launching new explosives fundraising campaign in December 2024. 30,000 deep strike drones will be delivered to the defense forces in 2025. They're going to be building homegrown drones where they can penetrate deep into Russia. Now, this is awesome. A Ukrainian drone has marked the first confirmed destruction of North Korean military vehicle supporting Russian forces in Ukraine's Kharkiv Oblast. And I keep seeing reports denying that the North Koreans are actually there. Like, I can't understand how you can keep making up stuff. Here's Darth Putin saying, "There will be no war. USA is inventing stuff. The war, it was inevitable due to the USA." And then he says, "The hard part about doing propaganda is that the past changes so quickly that you have no idea what will happen yesterday." And has a picture of Lavrov with it. And then finally, last couple things, there's an image here that if you can't see it because you're on Spotify, that's fine. There's a drone, or like a drone or some kind of net in trees, and it caught what looks like a glide bomb or some kind of equivalent about 5 feet off the ground, because that protected it from hitting in a really hard way and exploding. And the comment is "good catch." So that's all, my friends. That's all that I have for you today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Thank you to my patrons. I don't say thank you enough, but I really do appreciate your support on Patreon as well. Thank you more than anything else, though, for being the kind of people that care about Ukraine.